How's it going, everyone? Data here, and welcome back to episode number 19 of your Stanley Cup champion Philadelphia Flyers franchise mode, headed into the 2027 offseason as Stanley Cup champions after a crazy episode last time, the 2027 postseason. I hope that you had a chance to enjoy the ride because it was one of my favorite postseason runs in channel history. Round 1, sweeping Wayne Peterson's old team, the Rangers. Round 2, sweeping the Caps as they did to us a couple years ago. Round number 3, the conference final, taking down the Blue Jackets in 7 in comeback fashion. And in the Stanley Cup final, after being down 3-1, coming back to win the Stanley Cup in Game 7 by a score of 4-3, thanks to the game-winning goal of our captain, 39-year-old Claude Giroux, who ended up having a great total as well when it came to the points, as he scored 18 and 22, but the Conn Smythe winner was Wayne Gretzky Peterson, who had 16 goals and 25 points through 22 games in his first postseason as a Flyer. The 23-year-old was amazing, and it really says something for him to win the Conn Smythe over a lot of these other bigger names like Nylander, who's 31, Laine, who's 29, established player. This guy's 23, sat out for a year, shows up, wins the cup, making a huge statement. Moritz Seider, who led our team in points on the season, had 18 points in 22 games. And channel legend, a certified bellow, Thatcher Demko. He won cups with us in Buffalo. Now he's winning a cup here in Philadelphia. Went 16-4-2, 2 shutouts, 913 save percentage, 2.69 goals against average, and a great addition to the team from free agency. So now headed into the 2027 offseason, we want to obviously try and repeat as Stanley Cup champions, but we do have some growth coming in the system that's going to make the bottom 6 a little difficult. Of course, in our top 6, it's always going to be Laine, Nylander, Puljujarvi, Parros, Peterson, and Savoie at the moment. But right now we have Frost as a third liner, and he's likely playing with maybe Giroux, and maybe McLennan, maybe Mayorov, maybe Paco. There's a lot of players in there. So there's not really any room now for Alex Newhook, a guy like him, who we got from the Colorado Avalanche. He had sat out for like 3 years. We trade a first-round pick for him. He comes to Philly, plays 2 years. Even though his value has dropped and he hasn't been the type of player we were hoping he would be, he played his role and had 9 points in 22 games and helped us to win a Stanley Cup. So even if we only get like a third-round pick back for him, or even a second-round pick, to trade a first for a guy who's going to play fourth line on a Stanley Cup winning team and then get back a second, I can definitely swallow that. So a guy like Newhook, we're looking at moving him out. We're also going to be moving out our former backup now, Michael DiPietro. Came for a couple of years, got a Stanley Cup ring. We're not going to be able to pay him the $4 million that he's asking for, whatever, to be the backup moving forward. We're likely going to have Ev Gascon in the system, but we have lots of players forward-wise who are going to be coming up. The defense seems pretty good. It'll depend on our growth. We're not sure if we're going to continue to roll at the same top 4, but we'll only be able to know that by the start of the preseason. For right now, we know that headed into the draft, we have the 30th overall selection because we have Minnesota's first-round pick. Some great players going at the top here. The first overall gem player, Alvin Oliver, 45 goals. He's going to be an amazing first overall pick for whoever's picking there. Lots of medium elite players, but as I'm saying with the bottom 6, it's pretty packed right now. We don't have room for another guy who's going to be pushing for the middle 6 of our lineup. This Chris Kunitz Jr.? Who's this? Connor Kunitz. But maybe if there's the right defenseman, we could think about moving up. But I'm going to get into the comments right now, and we'll see what the assistant general managers had to say about what we're going to do with that first-round pick, our other trade pieces, and in general, our thoughts after such a monumental Stanley Cup championship. Etch making a great comment here about the captain. Claude Giroux knew they would need that 4th goal. Captain's intuition. 39 years old, nearing the last days of his career with the cup-clinching goal. What a year. What a postseason. Everyone pulled their weight and everyone picked up the slack when needed. Incredible performances up and down the lineup. Makes it much easier to win when your depth guys are potting such timely goals. Well said by Etch. It wasn't just a top-heavy approach. It was scoring throughout the lineup. And that's what we needed to break the 52-year cup drought in Philadelphia. And of course, as I'm going through these comments, you're seeing them on the screen. Last episode, there was a problem in exporting the files. It was such such a large file. It was almost a 2-hour video that something went wrong with the comments. It didn't show up on the screen. First time that's happened in a very long time, so I really do apologize for that, because obviously the assistant general managers are a huge and integral piece of this franchise mode. We still went through the comments, but you weren't able to read them. So apologies for that, but things are back in order now. Moving on to a comment from Goldie. Goldie says, "Hey Data, I only recently discovered your channel. I've already watched through Seattle, and now we're finally caught up on Philly. A first-time commenter and new assistant GM. Welcome, Goldie. We're very pleased to have you. Congrats on Philly's first cup since 1975. It's been almost a decade since the city of Philadelphia had any kind of championship at all, so happy to be called champions again." Now on to business. With the Stanley Cup banner now being raised up to the rafters, we need to try and get a repeat, and Alex Newhook is an unfortunate case of someone too good for the fourth line, but not good enough somewhere else on the team. Goldie goes on to say, basically, what if we try to sign Newhook, get him on a good deal, increase his trade value, and then trade him? The only problem with that is that it would have to be a trade that's done after the draft, and I think we're looking at trading Newhook ASAP so that we can package him in a type of deal. If we're going to package Newhook with, say, DiPietro and the 30th overall pick, we'd have to do it at the draft, and we wouldn't be able to re-sign him. But if things don't pan out, we could definitely re-sign and then trade him on July 1st. Another thought here about the captaincy that I'll have to think, all of you in the comments will have to think about this one before the start of next episode. Is it time for Claude Giroux to give up the captaincy now that he's won his cup with Philly? We believe he should retire in Philly. However, he's getting up there in age. I would suggest maybe starting him off the season as captain, then halfway through have Giroux decide who to hand over the captaincy to, probably Moritz Seider, as a way to show that he's ready to accept that his time is almost up and that the future of Philly is just as bright. My suggestion is Seider, of course. I think most people have that same suggestion. Thank you, Data, for once again bringing the cup back to Philly, and we are all looking forward to seeing what you'll be able to do with the team going forward. Thank you very much, Goldie. Now, there's been a few different thoughts, and you will see them as we keep reading comments about the captaincy. Should Giroux start the season as captain, give it up halfway through? If he's going to be having maybe fourth-line minutes, it's a tough question, so we'll keep that in the back of our heads, and we'll revisit it as a major question at the end of the offseason. As I'm scrolling through, there's just so many great comments that you would have seen at the beginning of this episode. Just so much excitement after the Stanley Cup championship. Ed comments, "Congrats, I believe that you could win the cup," and we did. You don't need to move up in the draft because we already have enough NHL-ready prospects, and we have deep player reserves. My advice would be to move down in the draft from the 30th overall pick and take Miettinen, a player that we looked at last episode and we'll look at a little later on. He is a gem and possibly the best choice among those near picks. And don't miss the goalie ranked at 62, which is Clefbaum, a medium elite goalie. We'll see if that lines up. We should be able to get him with our second round pick if we did want to go goalie. In general, I don't like the players in the draft here, and I wouldn't make lots of trades for current picks, maybe looking into next year's picks. Maybe it would be worth it to trade for a young, solid defenseman, because Plekhanov and Brisebois aren't really hurrying to improve their overalls, but hopefully, like I said, we'll see by the start of the preseason what their overalls are. As Ed has noticed, and I'm sure many of you have as well in franchise mode, some young D-men take a long time to grow. Lastly, Mayorov, Pekka, and Paco is the fourth line that he sees next season. I think I see that as well, so thank you very much, Ed. Moving over to the Discord server now, where it is always a blast, especially in a playoff video. Jack says, breaking news, after another Game 7 L in the Stanley Cup Final, there is once again riots breaking out across Vancouver. Yikes. A comment from Derek. I have some thoughts about accused fraud William Nylander. Bullying works, and I take full credit for his performance. Derek, who's been a loud critic of William Nylander, calling him fraudulent many times, and he shows up almost going point per game in the postseason, and we can finally put a little respect on his name. Pat's also on board with highly recommending trading our 30th overall pick for a future first. This is a weak draft class. Even the interesting NHL-ready prospects have low potential. A top 4D and top 6 forwards are not worth a lottery pick. Already a logjam of 78 to 82 overall guys in the system. Don't need to add one just for the sake of adding one. And trading for a future first would also be very safe. Worst case scenario, you move back 3 spots in a likely better draft. At best, it's a lottery ticket. So good thoughts there from Pat. Derek also with some thoughts on the captaincy, wondering if we might do a passing the torch storyline. We could say that there was a ceremony during the first game of the season where Giroux relinquishes the C now that he's won a cup with his team, and he steps back to just be a player as the young core steps forward, represented by the new captain, Moritz Seider. Pat also giving his thoughts on the bottom six, with the new hook issue being in there. The bottom six lines may end up being Mayorov, Frost, Paco, Pekka, Giroux, McLennan, and Curtis Douglas as 13th forward, the 6'8" behemoth we signed in the AHL. And I said I like this, but it would be hard to dump an alternate captain in Oscar Lindblom for a rookie when we aren't in cap trouble. Pat then follows up, fair point. In that case, maybe one of McLennan or Pekka is the odd man out, sort of the new Bobby Brink situation. Too good, too young, and too much potential to scratch. Considering how the video ended, maybe Pekka is odd man out. I don't know, McLennan had a good postseason, but Pekka has 5-star shooting, scored 53 goals in the AHL. It's a tough call, but thankfully we don't need to make it right now. A lot of comments here, but after a Stanley Cup championship, what do you expect, right? We'll end it off with the X Factor thoughts. Pat thinks that we can go 4 players this year as opposed to the usual 3, because we only did 1 player last year. Plekhanov is one. We want to see him play. We saw him play, and he's earned those 3 the 3 X factors being silver, ice pack, truculence, and that Seth Jones one with the octopus where he intercepts passes. I forget what that one's called again. We'll check it out. Wayne Peterson can get the gold, shock and awe, with the silver, born leader, and the one about faceoffs. Seider could get the gold, third eye, after a 70-plus assist season, and then a couple of silvers. And Mayorov could maybe get a silver on a T and or truculence. We'll see what we can do. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of giving X factors to bottom 6 players. I know we've done it before with Brink and Lindblom, but even though I'm updating the rest of the NHL and making sure every team's top players have X factors, I'm not giving every team's good bottom 6 or middle 6 players X factors either. So I wouldn't be opposed to Mayorov. It would depend on what his growth does. If he's like a mid-80 overall by the time the season starts, I'd be a bit more comfortable doing that. But regardless, we're going to be giving X factors to Plekhanov, Peterson, and Seider at the very least. There were some other thoughts given on X factors, as well as how we should probably keep Pekka over McLennan since Pekka's 20 and McLennan's already 24. So I'll close it out in this last comment that kind of summarizes everything else. Dbix says, loved the video. Been a Flyers fan my whole life, and it's nice to pretend the pain will go away. Reading what others said, I agree with Sully and Derek on the X factors. I would trade McLennan and Newhook. Call up Pekka and Paco. Trade DiPietro too. Gascon is the wave. Maybe use the extra cap if there is a really good option for a 6th D-man. Be cool to run it back, but a bit better. Resign Risto and maybe wait to see if his demand goes down. Trade Robertson. That's going to depend again on the defensive growth. I wouldn't mind Robertson and Risto still being 6 and 7. Resign Giroux to another 1 year, please. He needs to retire with us. Oh, and fade the high picks this year for next year and the year after. Just get those guys Pat mentioned. Super weak draft class, and the team isn't desperate. So yes, Pat also suggested some players that I went ahead and watch listed, and now we can get into the draft. So if you've watched this series before, you know that there's a lot of time that goes into what the assistant general managers have to say. So thank you for bearing with me. I don't think there's anything to really do in terms of contracts or anything else before the draft. It's all going to come after the draft. There's not much for us to do. The biggest thing that's on our to-do list would just be that trade. Newhook is out. DiPietro is out. I wouldn't mind trading our first round pick, our 30th overall pick, and it's likely that Connor McLennan would also be moved. A great player who we've enjoyed having, but just not really enough ice time for a guy like him, who's already an 80 overall, might be 81. 4th line guy who just needs room to grow, and if you love him, let him go. We got him his Stanley Cup ring. In the real world, he was released by the Flyers, a 6th round pick back in 2020. We get him his Stanley Cup. He wasn't great on the 4th line, but in the postseason, he was very good. We let him go and thrive somewhere else now. 9 points, 22 games, 5 goals, 1 being a game winner. It would hurt to let him go, but at the same time, we have elite prospects who needs that bottom 6 ice time, and making him a scratch would probably be just, even worse. So without further ado, let's hop into the 2027 draft. We don't have much drafting to do, but we do want to get our trade done as soon as possible. So we are offering a fair bit of value. We could draft a guy at 30th, but it's looking like one of those classic like medium top 9 guys are going to be around there. So at the very least, we'd be trading back. So trading the 30th overall pick gives us a little bit of value, the pick that we got for Neil Pionk. The forwards we'd be adding in a trade would be not a lot of value. I've got Newhook here with the top 6 potential. We'd also toss in McLennan with his own top 6 potential. And then we would also add DiPietro, the expiring UFA. That gives us a fair bit of value. Now, I was scrolling through a lot of the teams in the NHL who finished where, somewhat, decent finish. Maybe, hopefully, they're a lottery pick next season. And Anaheim's one of those teams. It's kind of between Anaheim and LA, I think. They could also use a goalie because Dostal and Gibson are both expiring. So if they, DiPietro, they could be signing one of those at least. Or at least 2 of those 3, I mean. So if I could get some sort of pick next season, that would be great. I don't know if a first-round pick... Yeah, a first-round pick would work, actually, yeah. So if I can get a first from Anaheim, they're buyers, and they finish, I think they're first this year, hold on, is it 15th I saw? No, 13th. So that would be interesting, kind of one of those fringy teams, because a team that finished like bottom 10, it would make a lot of sense for them to trade their first next year. I think they'd be a bit cautious. So could I don't think they'd trade first and second, but I'd get your first and third next year, and can I get even like a second the year after? Let's shoot for the stars first. Basically, a first, a second, and a third. You're quite far off in value. So let's try a first and a third next year, and a third and a fifth the year after that. A first, 2 thirds, and a fifth. Still quite far off. How about a fourth and a sixth? First, third, fourth, sixth from Anaheim. Quite close to fair value. All right, let's do this then. Anaheim's first and third in 2028, and a 2029 fourth. Alex Newhook, thanks for coming. I hope that you enjoyed your time here in Philly. You got your ring. Same to DiPietro. McLennan, from a 6th round pick to winning a cup with GM data. It's been a pleasure having you. Just not enough room for you, buddy, and I want to see you thrive somewhere else. So McLennan's going to move on to make room for guys like Paco and Douglas and Pekka. The 30th overall pick, no one really interesting, so hopefully our first next year becomes something. Anaheim, what do you say? Trade accepted. Thank you very much. So it clears up more cap as well. Never a bad thing. Now next season we have 2 firsts, a second, 2 thirds, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. We're back to having our own firsts next year as well. Year after that, we have 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 2 fourths, 5th, 6th, 7th. Lovely. Good stuff. Very good, ladies and gentlemen. So that being said, let's simulate the first round of the draft. We're not picking anyone here in the first round. The first overall pick was an 84 overall. 84 overall. What's his name? Alvin Oliver. Already a third-line scoring forward. 84 overall. Sniper, 5-star shooting. My goodness. So there's a player for the Coyotes. Sheesh. Medium elite defensive defenseman, medium elite, sorry, two-way forward, not two-way D. Whoa! An 84 overall sniper goes 4th, and an 80 overall two-way forward goes 3rd. Yikes, Islanders are going to be kicking themselves on that one in a few years, probably. A 17-year-old, sorry, no, not this guy, Boos here. Gustavo Boos, 5-star shooting sniper at 18 years of age. 46 goals, 69 assists, second line forward already. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Medium elite, medium top 4, some decent prospects it looks like in this first round. Yeah, medium top 4 D. Outlaw was a lot of comments in the last one saying that we should go for Dave Outlaw, who played on the Hitmen, the Calgary Hitmen of the WHL. It was suggested that we go after him, but again, I wouldn't want to trade up for a pick like that. Even as interesting as it was to trade for the 11th overall pick from 30th, it would have been tough. We would have to give the 30th, everything we got from Anaheim basically, instead of getting all of that, we would have just gotten maybe the first from New Jersey, and we didn't even know how good he was going to be. So it's a bit risky in my opinion, although he was a fan favorite. Dave Outlaw, playing for the Calgary Hitmen. Top 6 forwards after that, Legwand, Tarnstrom, some decent players over here, not bad at all. But the problem was at the end, close to the end here, 60 overall medium top 6. Then here's a bunch of top 9s, top 6Ds. Yeah, we would have had to trade up a lot to make it worth it. That's the problem. It wouldn't have been a bad idea, but I'm hoping that the pick from the Ducks with a 3rd and a 4th as well will work out for us. Now we're in the second round. We don't pick until pick number 64 at the end of the second round. But I'm thinking of moving up slightly. There are some interesting guys here, some guaranteed medium top 6 forwards. So a guy that you'd get at like 18th, these are the guys that are going here in the second round. Ted Banting, he's 19. That's why he's 2 years away. Some guaranteed medium top 6s. Kai Miettinen, the player that was suggested earlier. He's a gem, medium top 6 guaranteed. 4 years away, though. That's the problem. What kind of stats does he have? Nothing special, but he is a gem. That's the thing. What can we trade up with now? I'm not so sure. Meanwhile, we could just say, forget having more logjam issues. We go ahead and take the medium elite goalie, Oscar Klefbom. 5 years away. Man, 5 years away. The Coyotes take a medium top 9. Because there aren't really any other goalies. We have a couple in our system. But we got to keep thinking. I'm always thinking about the future. He might be the only elite guy in the class, eh? Plus, we wouldn't have to trade up too much. Maybe just trade up a couple. If he's at 62, we could just trade up a little bit. Because if we did want to trade up, let's say from whatever, 64 to 40, whatever, wherever Miettinen was, what do we really have? We have some later picks. We could throw in like a 96, like 64 and 96. Would that be enough? And rookie skaters, we don't really have anyone that I'd want to throw in. These low elite guys, these are the players I'd want to use in trades during the season. Maybe Zacharias could be a guy we toss in, or maybe even Terry, low elite. What's this guy's name? Carson Terry, power forward, low elite at 19 years of age. I could see it. But would we want Klefbom or would we want Miettinen, the forward or the goalie? Now, in our system, we still have Lebedev, we have Schwarz, we have Jaguar. If this guy is also 19 years of age, is he going to be better than 50 or 58 overall? That's the gamble we're taking. And 5 years away, that's a big range. It's between like 48 and 60 overall. It's a large range, but we're not having to trade up. That's the key. We're not really having to trade up. That's the good part. Or do we try and not use that pick at all, and we use our like 2 third-round picks and something else? Let me see what I can work out. Maybe I can just go 109 with Carson Terry, the low elite prospect, straight up for pick number 43 from Buffalo. Quite far off. Let me try Terry with one of our third-round picks, because I would like to try and get that goalie at the same time if we can. Never can have too many goalies. Well, maybe you can, but you know what I mean. So many of them are so wonky and hard to predict. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a few elite guys in our system. 77 and Terry. Trade accepted. Okay, thank you, Buffalo. So with that pick, fingers crossed here at 43, I really hope this gem is going to be worth our time. Let's go ahead and take him out of Finland. Kai Miettinen, guaranteed medium top 6 gem from the SHL, possibly a power forward, similar to Rod Brendamore, 4 years away. Let's make the selection, and he is 61 overall, a center grinder, but with medium top 6 potential. All right, we'll see what he becomes. Better than Carson Terry and whoever we were going to draft with the third-round pick, so not a bad deal right there. Our next pick is going to be that goalie, and we're picking at 32. So let me see if I can trade with Columbus to just go from 32 to 29 here in the second round. 64, and I'll throw in... I don't want to use a 7th this year, because maybe I will. It depends. I might need another 7th later for some of those later guys I was thinking about drafting. 64 and 214... Quite close to fair value. Yeah, of course it is. Can I throw in a 7th next year? Does that have more value to you? Columbus still doesn't meet the block particularly well. You guys are so funny. Here's 162, and you give me a 7th back. There you go. 162, I get 221 back the other way. Thank you, Columbus. Let's go ahead and take that goalie here at 61, and better not be taken. There we go. Sometimes I get burned by that. Here at pick number 61, we'll go ahead and select the other Oscar Klefbom, a guaranteed medium elite goalie, 19 years of age and 5 years away. So the overall range could be anywhere from like 48 to 60. So I really hope that he's closer to the 60 side of things so that he becomes like our second best prospect after Lebedev. Another player out of the SHL, and he is 60 overall. Okay, he's worth our time. He is worth our time. 60 overall, medium elite. Great. So as you can see now in our system, that kind of makes a guy like Schwarz or Jaguar a bit more expendable, but especially Schwarz, who's 58 overall at 20 years of age, Meanwhile, Clefbaum is already a 60 at 19. Okay, so now Swords can become trade bait, perhaps, and the goalie depth becomes Lebedev, Clefbaum, then Jaguar in terms of future starters. All right, I like that very much, and our next pick is at number 96, so let's see if there's anything between now and then. Some low top 6 forwards, low top 4 Ds. Actually, yeah, there's a lot of low top 6 and low top 4. Interesting, around the 70s. Oh boy, I don't know if I want to wait till 96, because 96, is anything interesting at 96? There is a low top 4D, another Ukrainian that we could bring on board. We already have 2 Ukrainians on the team. A low top 6 Colin Falk, who is 3 years away. This guy, Angelo Gove, a defenseman who's 4 years away. I like that 3 years away low top 6 guy. That's the same as all these other guys. They're all 3, 4, so most of them even 4 years away. So I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. I'm going to risk it, I think. I'm going to go to pick 96. Or actually, like, I was projected like 92, right? So I'm going to go to pick 90. So let's make a little bit of a trade. Let's try and trade with Detroit, actually, for pick number 89. 96 and 221 to move up to 89. What do you say here, Detroit? Yeah, quite far off. My apologies for being so disrespectful. How about for 214? What do you say about that? Still quite far off. Okay, so now I got to give 2 sevenths to move up like 5 picks. 221 and 214. It's quite close to fair value. You guys kill me. Here's a 6th round pick next year then, I suppose. Here's my 6th in next year's draft. Oh, of course. Well, on behalf of the Detroit Red Wings, I accept your offer. Yeah. Pick number 89. I'm going to go ahead and take that low top 6 guy. Now, here's the risk. I think that this low top 6 guy is going to be just as good as the other low top 6 guys who go in the 2nd round or in the early 3rd round. So Colin Falk from the Flint Firebirds of the OHL. He is 64 overall, low top 6 two-way forward. Very nice. I like that overall, and pretty decent stats all around. 2-star shooting, okay. The other low top 6 players, at the end of the 2nd round, here you go. 61, 63. Here in the 3rd round, 63, 61, 61. Yeah, there you go. There was a medium top 6 here, but the rest, yeah, around that same range, 61 to 63 overall. So getting the guy at 64 overall, yeah, I'll count that as a win. That's GM data using that Android brain. Now between 90 and 109, anybody that we want. Some more low top for D-men. 2-bar medium elite. Pat suggested this guy, Will Rivers, but he's 20 years of age. I'm going to pass on making a trade for him. If he fell in our laps, would have been one thing. But yeah, let's just go ahead and simulate to our next selection at pick number 109. Not 104, 109. We're seeing, yeah, no one too crazy here. And what was the potential of Rivers? Yeah, he was just medium top 6. 66 overall, but at the age of 20, not as enticing. At pick number 109 now, let's see who we can find. A few 2-bar low elites. No one really speaking to me too much here. Might just trade down for our guys at this point. There's a lot of 2-bar low elite. I'm going to trade down to like the first pick of the... I'm going to trade down to around the 140s to get that 2-bar medium elite guy. Let's try to recoup some picks next season. A 5th, a 6th, and a 7th for a 4th. Buffalo trade accepted. Thank you very much. I'll trade them that pick. They go ahead and select a low top 6D. Both. Going now to pick 139. I'll go ahead and select Armsden. He's also 20. I didn't even realize that. He's 4 years. No, at this point, value is value. For the last guy, I wasn't going to trade up for him, but trading down for this guy, I don't mind. So Brian Armsden out of the USA Central. He is 63 overall, medium top 9. Yikes, yeah, that's a horrible one. Huskins was low top 9 as well, nothing crazy. Our next pick is 160. There's no one else really that interests me at this point. It's just going to be taking our guys. So let me try with this Swiss guy, Magnus Josefsson, 19 years of age, 2-bar low elite. Let's give him a whirl. He is medium bottom 6, absolutely atrocious. Pick number 214 is next, so I think we have players before pick 214. There is a guaranteed starter, actually, at Noah Nakis. Interesting. 5 years away, though. Guaranteed starter, it's not bad to have goalies in the system to trade to teams who need goalies. I'm going to take this guy knowing that we're not going to actually want him in our system. Like, what, you know, taking Clefbaum, that's a guy we want in our system. But Nakis, that's not a guy that we want in our system. It's a guy that we're just going to use to trade later on. So 214, we can sim all the way there because no one is of interest before then. I'm going to go ahead and select the medium starter goalie. Then I'm going to take the last two guys that we drafted, trade them for 7ths, I think, and take a shot on some of the other guys that we're thinking about drafting. Noah Nakis, guaranteed medium starter at 57 overall. Not bad. Okay, I'll take that for a 7th round pick. Thank you very much. Now pick number 221, but yeah, I don't want to miss. That's the last pick of the draft, right? One of the last ones. All right, let's go to pick 221. Who are the guys who are left on our watch list, if any? Actually, I'm kind of interested by this guy, Malachi Mikalski. Guaranteed low top 9, 4 years away. I'm going to do this, actually. For pick 221, 59 overall, that's not bad. For pick 221, yeah, I'll take it. Wonky prospect, not the greatest, but wonky prospect. Let me see if I can get a pick from Minnesota now for that 20-year-old, the medium top 9 guy. Or even Josefson, the medium bottom 6 guy. Here we go. Josefson to Minnesota for 222. Yeah, let the fans go cheer in the streets. I don't mind because I'm swapping a guy drafted medium bottom 6 for a shot at someone who might be 2-bar elite. So, you know, let's try it out. Why not? There is Ruslan Zamnov from Russia. 2-bar medium elite. He ends up being medium 7th D. Win some, you lose some. Go ahead and trade him to Vancouver. Let the fans cheer in the streets. And then let's try one last time on this other player who was 2-bar medium elite. And that was a Romanian, Vladimir Nichushkin. Let's see what we got here from the 2-bar medium elite. He is medium bottom 6. Lovely. So last try here from the Panthers. There you go. Let the fans cheer in the streets. And with pick number 224, we'll try and take the player who was 3-bar low elite. And that was Fotinos. Pablo Fotinos, 5 years away, like skating was that. And let me see what we got here. He is low top 6. Thank you very much. Only took like 4 tries, but we got one. A pretty solid draft. We traded away like 3 of those guys, so don't, or even 4 of them, so don't pay too much attention. But Mietnin, Clefbaum, Falk, some pretty solid picks for us. Thank you very much. Now we can move into the re-sign phase. So moving into the re-sign phase now, we'll see only one. Okay, so our NHL associate coach is going to need a new contract. I don't know if he'll want to sign back on because he's probably too highly rated, but we'll see what we can do with the musical chairs of coaches in franchise mode. We'll have some scouts to re-sign as well, so I'll take care of all of those off screen. But now we can look at the expiring deals. So Claude Giroux, let's see what we can sign him for. We wanted to around 4.5. Now he's looking at 4.025 for 1 year. He usually wants around what he's asking for. So I'm going to try the 85%, but I won't go too close to that 85% because that would bring him down to 3.425. Let's try 3.650. 1 year at 3.650 for Claude Giroux, who is obviously getting older, but it's coming off of like a 60-plus point season. So 1 year at 3.65 for Giroux, we have the money. Rasmus, my dear beloved son, Ristolainen, Stanley Cup champion, Ristolainen. I don't want to go super long term. I could see a couple of years on Rasmus, though. Bring him to 34 before we say thank you for your service. 85% is 3.03. So basically let's try 2 years at 3.05. It's more than 2 million less than he was previously making. So 2 years at just over 3 million. I could see that for Rasmus. Even if it's a bit expensive right now, we can afford it at the moment. It's not a big problem right now. If we're talking about a 6th, 7th D making that kind of money in 3 to 4 years, that would be a bigger problem. Matthew Robertson, he's a guy we could look at signing for another couple of years at a pretty cheap price tag. After that, it starts to go up a bit more. But if we could get him right now at like 1.5 for 2 years, that would be a pretty solid deal. So let's see what Robertson says to that. Noel, we can think about. Zach Aston Reese, he was great in the postseason. I'd almost bring him back. You know, I think I will bring him back. Even if he doesn't play a single NHL game, you can go in the AHL. You earned yourself $800,000 for how hard you worked in a depth role. Douglas, the 6'8" behemoth, will give him a couple of years. see if he finds his way onto the NHL squad. Paco's going to get his contract. I'll send out contracts to most of these guys and let the ones who shouldn't be here walk. Like Komutov can walk. Most of these other guys can get signed. Alfano can walk. And then, so just those are the UFAs and RFAs. Looking at the goaltenders, all of these players will get contracts. Eve Gascon, who's looking to become the NHL backup. I'm going to give her 2 years. Yeah, I can go 2 years on her to keep her as an RFA. But I'll give her more money since she'll likely be getting some NHL minutes. So 2 years, $2 million, two-way. Keeping her as an RFA, and hopefully she can become our NHL backup next season. Aside from that, I'll take care of everyone else. And I'll advance a day in just a moment. Alright, advancing a day now, and there should be lots of notifications here. Easy decision from Aston Reese. Claude Giroux, there we go. The first time that he accepts the contract we give him the first time. But we didn't give him 85% right away. Maybe he felt more respected. Rejection from Rasmus Ristolainen, Koliachanuk, Robertson, very good. Cooper Zek, Douglas, Suarez, Gascon, very good. Wong, Andre, Tumala, Paco, McInnes, Pan, Lebedev. Okay, very good. So now the remaining UFAs are just Ristolainen. RFAs, both these guys want like one-way contracts, so they're qualified. Saren Noel, I just wanted to say that I'm going to be releasing him. I wanted just it to be known that he could be a guy on the fourth line, but it's just too packed. He would be AHL. He's 80 overall. He's better than that. So I just wanted it to be known that we appreciate him being a depth player this past season, but I'm going to just release him, and he can find a full-time fourth-line gig somewhere else in the NHL. Goalies are all signed on. Maybe we want to trade Schwartz sooner rather than later, because if Oliver's the starter and Lebedev's the backup in the AHL, that leaves a medium elite player on the bench, and that's not great. He's also the lowest on our depth chart. Maybe trading Schwartz while his value is what it is would be a good idea. Consider that moving forward. Only thing we got to think about is Rasmus Ristolainen right now. We have more than enough money. I still want to keep that 2-year deal, and I'll give him an extra $100,000, 3.15 for 2 years. What I want to see is whether or not our associate coach signs back on. I'm not thrilled, but I accept. Great, A- coach. He wanted the head coaching job. He's back as the associate. Fantastic. Our other scouts signing back on. Very good. And rejection once again from Ristolainen. Buddy, you're not going to be getting a lot of offers out here. So, but I also don't want to lose him in free agency. Maybe I go 1 year, 3.25 for 1 year. Then next year, hopefully the demand will be cheaper. Let's try 1 year at 3.25 for Risto. And to that, he says, easy decision. Of course it was, Rasmus. Of course it was. So that leaves us with $10.245 million into this next season. And the year after that, we'll have, I think if I'm reading that right, if it's accurate, we'd have 26.345. And with all that, we can take care of, oh, sorry, no, that would be 28.29. So that's not quite super clear. Paros to resign. Yeah, I don't know how many extension dollars we have. That we'll have to figure out. But we're in a pretty good spot. I'll have to say I think we're in a pretty good spot. Coaches are signed on. Scouts are signed on. We're free to go straight to free agency. All right, so now on July 1st, I can actually see what the extension dollar situation is moving into next season. We can already think about giving an extension to players like Paros. So Paros would be wanting quite a bit of money. We'd have 18.495 in extension dollars. We could do a 3-year bridge, paying him somewhere in the 6 millions, or we could go in the 7/8 where it would be costing somewhere in the 9 millions. Consider that moving forward. He's an 85, but I think he was an 87 in the postseason. I might want to actually do this right now, and this is why the Discord server is fantastic. So I'm going to pose this to the Discord server. I won't bother you right now. I'll show you, well, once we figure it out, I'll give you the answer. But I'll ask that the Discord server to Plekhanov. Oh my goodness, 4 years, 6 million. That's not going to happen right now as an 82. And Hugo Brisebois, he'd be wanting 5.3. Yeah, defenseman cost quite a bit. If we did go 8 years, that would be better bang for your buck. So I'll speak to the Discord server about that. You don't need to concern yourself with that right now, because as you're watching it, the decision has already been made. I hope that you're on the Discord server so you could join in the decision-making process. Free agency, who is out here? Looking at the UFAs who are available. We see, looking at, sorting by overall, Kadri, Manjapane, Marino, Kwokinen, Batherson, McCann, Cody Glass, Zadina, Gerard, Marchessault, Strome, Devontays, Terry, blah, 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 a ton of 85s. And for goaltenders, who are out here. We see John Gibson at an 88 overall. So I don't think we're going to be going after any backups. A guy like Kakinen or Merzlikins, they wouldn't cost a lot. Even a guy like Binnington, actually, who has starter potential, 1.925. That's all they're asking. But the thing is, I don't know. That's another thing I could ask the Discord server about, but I feel like Gascon's ready to take over, and that's a super cost-effective method right there. Plus, it allows her to grow instead of sitting as third goalie. So I don't think we'll go after a goalie. It's more the maybe defense I'd be thinking about. If anything, it would be like a third pair D-man. So a guy like John Marino wouldn't be a guy that I'm looking at. Even though we have the money to do a big one-year deal, you also got to think about realism. Could we bump Travis Sanheim down and John Marino becomes the second pair right D on a one-year deal, paying him way less than what he's asking for? 1 year, $7 million or something? In theory, sure. But if he has the Jets interested, giving him 6 years, almost $9 million a year, it would not make sense for him to sign a deal with us. Maybe an older D-man, or if there's anyone asking for 1 year, but there's no one asking for 1 year. Maybe Cody Ceci asking for 2, but that's the thing. No one would take a big 1 year deal when they could get 4, 5, 6 years at a much bigger payday. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll be signing any D-men. The last thing we got to do here in free agency, that's pretty much it for free agency. We got to check out if there's anyone super interesting potential-wise in the UFAs. I don't want to take Tam because he was a former prospect of ours. I don't like releasing, then resign, like trading and then signing once he's been released. I find that, my conscience bothers me. I can't sleep at night when that happens. So, no one really speaking to me here. 2270 Filppula. No one really standing out too much. Yeah, I'll probably just let that go. And if I need to sign someone for the AHL, we'll get that done once the preseason rolls around. So not much to do here on July 1st. I'm going to go out and sign the best scouts that are available, pose those questions to the Discord server, and be back in a moment. Alright, so the on-call assistant general managers over on the Discord server have been summoned, and they seem to all agree that when it comes to Josh Prowse's contract. Alright, so the on-call assistant general managers over on the Discord server have been summoned, and when it comes to the Prowse contract, no one comment to show, just a general consensus that the 7-year contract would be the best course of action when it comes to an extension. He's asking for 9.475 right now. He's going to grow over the offseason. The contract will only get better. We're committing to him right now after a couple of solid seasons. We are going to be paying him a little more than 85% because 85% is 8.05. But if we can go 7 years, and let's make it a fair contract, 8.250 per season, pays him close to $60 million. It puts him that kind of, that Tim Stützle, that, likely that Jason Robertson kind of range at the age of 21. I think this is a very fair deal for both sides, and it still leaves us with about $10 million in extension dollars. So Paros, we'll see what he says to that, and then we can use the rest of our money on this, Sanheim, Plekanov's going to want some money, Breezeball's going to want some money. So it's going to start getting tight soon. Not quite yet, but it's going to start getting tight soon. So that's the only extension offer that we'll send out at this moment. And when it comes to the backup goaltender, whether we go with Gascon or signing one of those available free agent goaltenders, once again, the consensus is that Gascon should be the starter, and Wild Bronco leading this comment. 78 overall obviously isn't ideal, but she just won the AHL equivalent of the Vezina and her second consecutive Jennings. She should grow over the offseason and hopefully reach that 80 mark. After a season like that in Lehigh Valley, she at least deserves first crack at the job. Worst case scenario, we'll sign someone, 80, 81 around that time when the season rolls around. But for right now, there's the Prowse extension. We're going to keep our same goaltending. We're not sending out any contract offers here in free agency. Some very tempting players, absolutely. You see some big names, especially when we're sorting by potential. A couple of franchise RFAs who are out here. But for the moment, we're going to leave it as is. We don't quite have the money moving into the future, and for right now, the lineup is pretty set. We're reigning Stanley Cup champions. I don't really have anything else to say, so let's start simming towards next season. Our scouts are going to sign on. We're going to hope that Paros signs on, and that's pretty much it. Not a super busy offseason after the draft. The question now will be, how do the lines look after some offseason growth? Josh Parros says it is an easy decision to renew the contract. I appreciate that you chose to offer me the type of money that I feel I am worth, so I decided to re-sign. So 8 more years, if you include this next one, the final year of his ELC. We'll have Parros for a 7-year extension after his entry-level deal expires. Great news for Philadelphia fans. And oh my goodness, I almost forgot. Thankfully, I caught myself here in mid-August. We've got to set up the draft class for next season. Almost forgot to randomize it. So when it comes to the draft class, last season we had a medium-low class. Medium draft class quality with low generated prospect quality. Heading into next season, randomizing a number between 1 and 100. 1 to 30 is low, 31 to 69 is medium, and 70 to 100 is high. I generate a number here and I get 8. Oh my goodness, for draft class quality. So that'll be a low draft class quality into next season. But the generated prospect quality will be high with 98. My goodness. So it will be a low-high draft. So maybe not a deep draft, but there should be some very good high-end talent. Very interesting to keep in mind headed into next year's draft, a low-high class. So arriving now at the beginning of the preseason, I'll take a moment to edit the lines and make them look how I think they may look headed into the regular season, and we'll be able to check out what kind of growth our players had over the offseason. All right, so here we are to potentially begin 2027-28. The first line is still the same with Nylander, Peterson, and Laine getting the +5. No overalls have changed there, and neither of the overalls changed on the second line as Parros, Savoie, and Puljujarvi still get their +5, but Parros and Savoie still stuck at 85 as well. I'm surprised there wasn't really any growth there. On the third line, we see some growth as Frost is centering Mayorov and Paco. Mayorov has grown from a 79 to an 80, and Paco is an 81 to make his NHL debut. 5-star puck skills, very impressive for the two-way forward. In the first year of his entry-level deal, 96 points and 51 goals in 72 games in the WHL last season. A third-round pick back in 2025. Fourth line, we have Joey Pekka, Claude Giroux, and Oscar Lindblom. Joey Pekka last season led the Lehigh Valley Phantoms in points and had 53 goals. A great shooter, 5-star shooting. He'll have special teams time. A wonky prospect who is going to do some great things for us. Came in the San Jose Sharks deal when we sent Sean Couturier to San Jose. On defense, we have Plekhanov and Seider, and I think this would be good because now with the added X factors to Plekhanov, he and Seider get a +3. They were also fantastic in the postseason together. So while Sanheim was Seider's partner that, Seider got 76 points with, Plekhanov does give him a +3. He's up to a 92, so now he's playing like a 95, and Plekhanov will play like an 85 with his X factors. I think this is a match made in heaven. On the second pair, Brisebois has grown from an 81 to an 83, but Pelech has dropped from an 87 to an 86. A bit odd. 2 years left on his deal, by the way. And third pair, we have Ristolainen, who's up to an 81, and Sanheim, who's still at an 83. So I think I'm liking this as the defensive pairings heading into next season. Scratches, 13th forward is Curtis Douglas, the 6'8", 243-pound power forward. Very impressive. And 7th D is Matthew Robertson, signed for 2 years at $1.5 million. Likely the Ristolainen replacement eventually, but I don't know, we'll see who works best. He and Ristolainen did a lot of sharing last season. Goaltenders, it's now 88 overall Thatcher Demko, backed up by 79 overall Eve Gascon. She's going to get the chance to be our NHL backup, making history here in the NHL. Hopefully she can run with it. I'm not sure how a 5'8" goaltender will do in game. Hopefully in the simulation it doesn't really matter. It doesn't seem to have mattered because her numbers in the AHL have been amazing. The last 3 seasons with Lehigh Valley have been very solid, especially last season, even the year before. Great numbers. And she was a 5th round pick back in 2022. So as a 79 overall, I'm hoping for big things from her. And down in the AHL, we see that the lines haven't changed them yet, but here are some of the names that we're seeing. No one really developing in overalls too much. Kaskamaki stuck at a 75. I'd like him to grow, but same for Denoye, also stuck at a 77. Defense, Kolyachonok stuck at a 79. Wiley, Enright, all these guys haven't budged in overall at all. Goaltending, it's Len Oliver with medium starter potential, backed up by 69 overall Nikolai Lebedev. Medium elite potential, the Estonian, 20 years of age. Looking forward to big things from him. We also have Orlando Suarez, the goalie we're thinking about trading perhaps 20 years of age, 60 overall. The Canadian on his first year of his ELC. We could consider trading him. So as we close out this episode, we'll check out the trade blocks around the NHL. Our own trade value, by the way, is looking very impressive with Moritz Seider and his trade value. Crazy stuff right there. The rest of the players you could see, some of the bigger names. And remember our draft pick situation. We have 2 firsts, a second, 2 thirds, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 2 sevenths in this upcoming 2028 draft. So looking at players on the block, even if we don't go after them now, maybe you'd say let's look into them at the trade deadline, because hopefully next episode I can do the entirety of the season once again. Anaheim, we see Caleb Jones, Oli Imata. On Arizona, Valimaki and Barabanov. Boston, there's Chikrin, Rodriguez, Liljegren, Dermott. On Buffalo, we see some very interesting prospects. Doughty here, but 76 at 23. Yeah, we thought about him last year. Remember that, Doughty. Calgary, Vesalainen, Lawson Krause. That's an interesting one, but a crazy contract. Tanner Jeannot, DeBrusk, Athanasiou, Verana. Over on Carolina, we see some more prospects. Chicago prospects with McGinn. Landeskog, McLeod, Raquel, and Boquist all on the block here in Colorado. Very interesting names because Colorado's in a tight spot. They have a crazy team right now because they signed Josh Allen in free agency to a 7-year contract, paying him $16.62 million per season. So their forward core right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a crazy top 6. Is their defense struggling? They have 3 franchise players with Makar, McKinnon, and Allen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so the defense is taking a bit of a hit there. And their goaltending is a 75 overall. So that's a tough situation over in Colorado. But a very strong offense. Continuing, but very interesting names as well. Very tempting names. And not crazy trade value either. We could do some scouting on these guys. Landeskog does have 2 more years. But Michael McLeod, 86 overall with 1 year left at a reasonable deal. Maybe even Rickard Rakell. Consider that. Columbus, we see prospects. Dallas, Nichushkin, Texier, and Tippett and Burakovsky. Former Flyer Owen Tippett. Over on Detroit, McGillis. Who's this guy? 80 overall. Abraham McGillis, 2-way D, 10th overall pick with top 4D potential. Okay. Edmonton prospects, Florida prospects, Los Angeles Kings nobody, Minnesota Wild prospects, Canadians Slavin, Forsling, Hronek, Hayden Fleury, and Scott Walker. Expiring deal from Slavin. Okay. Over on the Nashville Predators, Marchessault, Kubalik, Zub, Trenin, Logan Stanley, Ronnie over here. Down to the New Jersey Devils. Prospects including Dave Outlaw, who we wanted to think about in the draft. Good old Dave Outlaw on the block in New Jersey. Islanders, Dvorak, Zacha, Batherson, Yafalo, Devontae, Ferraro, Senyshyn. Always a fire sale with the Islanders. If it's not Sorokin, it's the rest of their entire team. Sheesh. New York Rangers. Hey, look at that. To name a better duo. An expiring RFA and the New York Rangers. Damian Petrovic, 14th overall pick. An RFA on New York. Ottawa Senators. Thomas Chabot, 1 year left. He's on the block. He was on the block last season with 2 years left. Now he has 1 year left. Norris for Menton. We were thinking about Chabot last season. But the thing is, what would we trade to Ottawa? Even if we were considering trading a guy like Travis Sanheim, we have to add in one of those, probably that goalie prospect. Like Sanheim plus the goalie prospect. Does that even get kind of close? It's getting there. But it would also be an expiring deal on Chabot. Would we be able to keep him longer term? That's the question. No one on the block over in Pittsburgh. San Jose, we have more prospects. We're just going to sort back by overall. More prospects in San Jose. Seattle, nobody. St. Louis, prospects kind of. Tampa Bay, nobody. Toronto, prospects. Vancouver, prospects. Vegas, Nicholas Hague, Cale Clegg, White Cloud, and Washington, Kuznetsov on an expiring deal. Winnipeg, prospects. Alrighty, so there are the trade blocks around the NHL if anyone piques your fancy. But that should be just about it for this offseason. Not a crazy offseason, just the draft. Aside from that, we get Paros extended. We see some more growth, and I'm excited to see if we can go back to back all expiring. Hugo Brisebois is probably our next guy looking for a contract. We have 11.045 in extension dollars. We could do a 3-year bridge on him, or we could look at a 7-8 year type of thing, paying him somewhere in the 6 millions per year. Would that be too cheese? Let me know your thoughts on a Brisebois extension, as well as captaincy thoughts for Claude Giroux, who now has bottom 6 potential, likely retiring after this year. Travis Sanheim would not be coming back for that price that he's asking. Basically asking for Brisebois money. That's not going to happen. And Plekhanov, another guy that we need to extend, might have to RFA him if he's asking for too much. But those are his demands right now. Do you have any other lineup suggestions, trade suggestions, or any of that? Make sure to leave it down here in the YouTube comments or over on the Discord server, link in the description, where you can join and add your thoughts live to episodes as they're happening, or after the fact for your suggestions for the episode that follows the one that you're watching. But that just about does it for the 2027 off-season. Headed into 2027-28, we're looking to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. A strong showing in the Metropolitan Division will be needed. Are these the lines to get us there? Do we need to mix them around, consider some other moves? That is for all of you to think about. And I will leave you there, headed into year number 6. NHL 23 is around the corner, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Franchise mode, career simulation uploads, and much, much more, especially game mode deep dive coming soon for NHL 23, which of course will include our franchise mode breakdown. So you'll want to be subscribed to not miss out on any of that. Leave a like if you're excited to head into year number 6. And I thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to watch. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in the next one, where we will begin our journey to go back to back.